fuck just happened? Like, what did I get hit with? And couldn't regroup, and I don't know, man.
What's up, fight fans? Welcome to my channel. This is Johnny, and in today's video we're going to be going over the statistics that nobody talks about when mentioning last night's IBF world title fight at 154 pounds between the champion Murtazaliev and the challenger Tszyu. Guys, before I continue, I want to say thank you to all the new subscribers. Thank you to everybody who's been with me since day one. And if you haven't already, could you please hit the notification button? If you like the content that I create, what this will allow me to do, every time I put something out that's new, you'll be the first to be notified. Thank you. What a predicament that took place last night in Orlando, Florida between Murtazaliev and Tszyu. If you follow my channel, if you would have seen the videos that I had been posting the week up into the fight, I was breaking down both fighters. I talked about the pros and cons, what each fighter does well. We together spoke about how they go about their business, who they fought, what their finishes look like, and what their strengths look like. And I posted a snippet of an 8-minute video talking about what Murtazaliev does really well. And now we have the IBF champion, who a lot of people don't know about, Murtazaliev. The more video and the more tape I watch on him, the more I like what I'm seeing. He's a little bit older than Tszyu, and he's a big junior middleweight. He's 31 years old, and he stands at 6 feet tall, and he's rangy. As an orthodox fighter, he does like to fight and use his length. His punches are a bit wide, and what I'll show you is his lead hook is good, and he also has a gorgeous step back counter, straight right hand. And when we watch this fight play out, we know that he won via 3rd round stoppage, shocking everybody. If you're gonna sit there and say you weren't shocked by what you saw, then you're smarter than the rest of us. Murtazaliev going into that fight was a 6-1 underdog. He was coming off a tough victory over Jack Colque that went 11 rounds, in which he got hit a lot. And the betting apps down here not only had Murtazaliev at 6-1, but if you were to pick him to beat Tszyu to win by knockout in any round, that was an 18-1 bet. I know this because a buddy of mine who lives down here in Australia, who isn't the biggest Tszyu fan, sent me that bet. So, all in all, shocking scenes took place. I spoke about earlier in the week Murtazaliev's left hook. I talked about it. I said that of all the research that I had been doing, me as a content creator, a lifelong boxing fan, a kid who got into the sport when he was 7 years old, a 42-year-old man now who still trains, still spars, coaches people, doing my due diligence, doing my research, I said of all the footage I could find on Murtazaliev, the things that he does really well with a 6-foot frame, 2-inch reach advantage over Tszyu is his lead left hook. And I even slowed it down and showed you guys replays of it, as well as his counter right hand. And he's really slick with both. And I said in the clip that if I found this out, I'm sure Team Tszyu is preparing for this. Now, when this fight started, and as I was watching it played out, we saw Tszyu get dropped 3 times in the second, and then once in the third, and then his corner throw in the towel. I was thinking to myself, did they not game plan for Murtazaliev? Did they not watch any film or any tape on Murtazaliev? And this even made my reasoning sound truer when you look and listen to Murtazaliev after the fight. He says through an interpreter, it sounds to me they weren't expecting my left hook, because Tszyu had no answers for it. When you watch even where his guard was, Tszyu kept his hands here the whole time. So everybody knows who's ever fought before or taken classes or hired a real boxing coach that you're either in the pocket gonna come here to protect you from straight shots or here to protect you from hooks. Tszyu, the entire time, never made an adjustment, kept his hands here, and kept getting hit here with the left hook, and never made an adjustment. And it was shocking for me to see as well. A lot of things shocked me, and we'll get into that. But before we get into what I want to talk about, what went wrong, I first want to give a hand clap to Murtazaliev, because after this event took place, you saw social media go crazy. Everybody's talking about how Tszyu wasn't that good. Tszyu was a hype job. Now it's time to move on from Tszyu, etc., etc. No one was talking about Murtazaliev is a goddamn dog. Nobody wants to fight this guy even more now, and you got to see why. For the division, he's long, he's rangy, he has power, and his hook is beautiful. So stay tuned. We're going to get through this. I'm going to talk about the statistics. There's not a lot to talk about. We only got 3 rounds. And then I'm going to talk about what went wrong for Tszyu, what went right for Murtazaliev, and what's next for both fighters. The stats from the opening frame reflect the statistical tendencies of both fighters. Murtazaliev outworked Tszyu, throwing 18 more punches than Tszyu. While Tszyu was more accurate, Murtazaliev steamrolled Tszyu in the second round though, landing 32 punches and knocking Tszyu down in the opening minute, again at approximately the halfway point of the round, and scoring a third knockdown in the closing minute of the round. Tszyu was reduced to throwing with Murtazaliev in a desperate attempt to land a fight-changing haymaker, but he never found that punch. Murtazaliev scored a 4th knockdown in the 3rd round, and Tszyu's corner threw in the towel at a minute 55 of that 3rd round. Tszyu and Murtazaliev were neck and neck in terms of accuracy, but Murtazaliev doubled up Tszyu and power punches landed. Guys, and if you look at body types, this is no excuse, this is just a natural observation. Murtazaliev looked huge. If you watch the Kolke fight, Murtazaliev didn't look like the same guy physically to me. Against Kolke, he looked like a long, lean, drawn-out fighter. Against Tszyu, when the fight started, it looked like he filled out and just was a bit more dense. So I'd like to ask him how his recovery went in the weight cut. It looked just like he was much more recovered and had a better weight cut. He looked more sturdy and way more resilient. He did get hit. It's not like Tszyu didn't land anything. He had his face marked up. It's just that the punches weren't doing anything to Murtazaliev in the moment. Now, I've been reading articles all morning about Sean Porter talking about how Tim Tszyu was arrogant in his approach. Tim Tszyu was arrogant in his tactics. I wouldn't use the word arrogant. I would say Tim Tszyu panicked in the streetlights, meaning that he didn't make any adjustments. Now, boxing, you use your jab when you're hurt. You grab when you're hurt. You don't just stand there and throw bombs. That's something you see from a fighter who's inexperienced. And this is where I think Tim Tszyu wasn't arrogant, he just got exposed. His inexperience being the nail got exposed. We've always seen him be the hammer. We have seen him get dropped before, but he's never really been hurt. And a true experienced fighter who's been in wars over long periods of their career understands that when you are hurt, when your feet aren't under you, the last thing you want to do, if you still want to win the fight, is fight fire with fire. You want to back up, you want to clinch, you want to grab, or you want to start working your jab and moving around. You want to get back on your toes and try to get your legs under you. See where your head's at. Tim Tszyu wanted nothing of it. You saw the immaturity, in a sense, of the ring experience in Tszyu's body language every time he'd get dropped. His body was shaking. His body wanted to quit, but you saw the ego of man, the fighter, the spirit of a warrior get back up every time. Even when this corner threw the towel in, this guy is such a savage. He was still getting up and throwing punches. So the kid does not ever and will never quit on himself. What I think so after this fight, there are a lot of learning points for Tszyu to take home and tighten his game. Defense being one of them. Work on his side guard, not just his front guard. That being one of them. Tactically, game planning, working your jab, being more patient, not wanting to fight fire with fire when you get hurt. You see that with a lot of younger guys who pick the sport up when they're sparring or just learning how to get hit, is that when they get hit for the first time or they get dropped, they want to get it back right away. But that's the last thing you want to do, especially against a big puncher who isn't hurt, who's fresh. And I think as Tim looks at the tapes, he'll be able to see the adjustment that could be made, not saying that the end result would have changed. Now we have to think about what's next for both guys. It's very exciting to think about Murtazaliev's options. Unify the belts at 154. Does Bud Crawford want to fight Murtazaliev? Does Fedora want to fight Murtazaliev? Do we live in a world where we'll actually see those fights? Murtazaliev said he was going to beat Tszyu and move up to 160 to fight Lara to become a champion there. He did say that, so we'll see when that happens. With Tim Tszyu, a lot more questions, a lot more soul searching. He even said himself after the fight, they interviewed him, he talked about the Fedora fight was a little bit easier to get over because he felt like that was a bit fluky. He said this one's gonna be way different, and it is. There's a lot of things he has to go over. At 29 years old, he'll be 30 soon. He took a lot of headshots. With his style, he takes a lot of shots. His movement wasn't there last night. He didn't look like the same guy. Does he stay in America? He spoke about wanting to keep his time and his family in Vegas. Does he come back to Sydney, take the Zarafa fight maybe, win a few fights on Australian shores, and then try to get after America again? Only time will tell. The last thing you're ever gonna hear from me, and you guys know this about me, is that I'm never gonna kick a man when he's down. Tszyu got beat up. It's boxing. If as fans we say that we want to see the best fight the best, somebody is going to get beaten up. So I tip my hat to Tim for wanting to do what he says, take the toughest challenges. He didn't have to take this fight directly after the Fundora fight, but he chose to do it. Wasn't a good matchup for him, and he paid for it. A huge tip of the cap to Murtazaliev. He's fought his whole career. He's 31 years old, been a world champion now, and hopefully he's on that international stage and can get the big fights that he craves for, and more importantly, the attention, the respect, the love, and adoration from boxing fans worldwide. Guys, in the comment section below, let me know who you took to win this fight. Were you shocked like I was? And also, if you got the time, what's next for Tszyu? What's next for Murtazaliev? I'll be waiting to hear from you.